We are happy to have with us on the show for the first time Camille Pauley from Healing the Culture. And this is, again, we had so many interviews from Seek 24. This is one that is kind of the fruit of several conversations held near our booth on Mission Way. And we met some folks and they said, you need to meet Camille. And we were able to set it up. So, Camille, it's great to have you with us here on Roadmap to Heaven. And I wonder if we could start, for those who don't know, by telling our listeners, what is Healing the Culture?
Sure, Adam. Well, thanks for having me. And I'm glad to get to know you too as well. Healing the Culture was founded by Father Robert Spitzer, great Jesuit philosopher, Catholic priest, back in 2003. And the purpose of the organization, it's pro-life and we're educational, we're international. And we fill a niche that was really missing from the pro-life movement, which was to help people understand the underlying philosophical arguments behind why we are pro-life in a way that would help people fundamentally change what they're living for and what they're looking for. So we deal with questions of what is real happiness? How do you define freedom? What does it mean to have a human right? What is a human person? What are deep and lasting definitions of quality of life and success? And then we use that curriculum to move people into higher levels of understandings of those words. And then we build 10 principles of ethics, logic, and justice to form a pro-life position. So our organization is working really hard every day, K through 12, college and adult, to form people deeply in why they should be pro-life by forming them in all the underlying arguments before you even get to the pro-life position.
Wow, that's incredible because, how often do we talk about natural law and that our civil laws should reflect the natural law? But if we aren't opening our own hearts to what's in the natural law, what did God say? What does God have to teach us about these moral issues? We've been saying for the past few years here on Roadmap to Heaven that the most important work of the pro-life movement right now is the reaching out to hearts and, as you say, not just healing the culture, transforming the culture and opening our eyes to the realities of the dignity, the sanctity of human life. And that's what I love about what brings us together. You've got a new video series out from Respect Life University, free videos for all ages that defend life, and they help us have these conversations. And what I have to say, I was a little shocked by this, saying that we can have online conversation in a respectful and civil manner. And that's a pretty big step you're taking there, Camille.
I think we can. It's hard for this generation to do it. Gen Z is an amazing generation. This is the generation that was born after 1996. The generation that grew up with, they're digital natives is what they're called. So they've grown up with everything being digital and they've got the world at their fingertips, information at their fingertips. But the downside is that they can become very antisocial. They don't learn how to debate, how to have insight, how to investigate in order to solve a problem, to get information, to learn, and to win an argument or even to look at arguments from both sides. And so we have a platform called Respect Life University on our website, healingtheculture.org. Respect Life University has videos for all ages, but this year we focused really hard on that Generation Z audience, and we created a series called Forbidden Discussions, because a lot of these discussions are forbidden in that age group. You don't have discussions or debates about abortion or euthanasia or, stem cell research, because the truth has already been decided for you. It's already being crammed down your throats in your high schools and your colleges and universities. And there's no debate to be had. Why would you even have a debate? And so what we're doing is showing kids, you kind of need to talk about this and you kind of need to debate and decide for yourself if what's being thrown down your throats in your universities is actually the truth. And so we're trying to teach them to think for themselves, and not just teaching them to think for themselves, but how to think for themselves, which universities and high schools are not doing anymore. Teaching them to think is teaching them what to think, but not teaching them how to think. And that's what Forbidden Discussions does.
I love that. And I love the provocative title to say Forbidden Discussions, because immediately my kids will be like, well, why can't we talk about that? And the reality is actually you can and you should. So when we look at this series, and you already said Gen Z, the digital natives, for those of us who have those kids, can you remind us, what is that age range when we talk about Gen Z? What are we specifically targeting here with this video?
Well, the exact age range is being somewhat debated, but it's anywhere. I like the line drawn anywhere above 7 years old up to about 24 years old is Gen Z. And predominantly when people talk colloquially about Gen Z, they're talking about high school, college age kids, young college age kids. So the kids who are in college right now or in high school right now, that's your Gen Zers. And these kids are confused. They're very confused. They're confused about gender. They're confused about sex. They're confused about religion. They're confused about their identity. They're even confused about what it means to be a human person. They're ultimately a very confused generation. And so in order to unravel for them the lies that the culture is telling, we have to first build up a philosophy of what you really are. What does it mean to be a human person? So we start at the bottom and we define a human person, something that the pro-life movement has not really stressed. We're really good at showing the pictures. We're really good at the practical arguments. We're really good at the intervention, but we haven't been as good at giving a philosophical definition of what it means to be a human person in the first place, so that Gen Zers can look at it and say, is it logical and consistent to assume, to say that the unborn child is a full human person? So what we've done in this series, I love this, Adam, we take a young woman, Gen Z age, and a young man, Gen Z age. Isaac and Finley are their names, and they debate the issues, but they switch sides. So they're forced to take an issue, take a look at it, argue it, and then in the next episode, they take the opposite position. And so it really teaches kids how to look at hard issues like abortion from both sides, and then go beyond just, well, the statistics say this. Well, I heard that, but actually go deeper into, okay, but what's logical? What makes sense? Where are you being inconsistent? Where have you committed a logical fallacy, right? And so that's what these arguments are doing. It's not just giving them pro-life argumentation very clearly. It's giving the pro-choice side to have a voice, so that you hear what's their best arguments, what is the best foot they're putting forward. And then how do you argue against that? How do you notice the logical fallacies? How do you point them out? And how do you do it in a respectful manner that you're not just smashing each other over the head or, turning off your Zoom and not listening to each other?
Yeah, I mean, the difference between, well, why are you saying this? Well, because that's what I was told was true, versus saying, all right, well, let's talk about this and let's point out, here's the error in your argument. And here's where that doesn't make sense to me. So here's where I have a question. And then in answering those questions, we get to some great truths. Now, I've taken a look at the first episode of this, where they go back and forth on the beginning of human life and what happens at conception and what is happening in the womb. And I love that at one point, the young woman asks the young man a question. Well, how can you make that distinction based on this or that? I mean, would you make that distinction with someone outside of the womb? And he didn't really have an answer for that. It was putting some of the holes in the argument front and center, so we can say, okay, well, this. Now, reasonably, that is a great position, and I like the way you're arguing this here.
Yeah.
As you look at these, one of the things I would love to know is, what's the reaction of youth? Because it's one thing for me to say sometimes, oh, I think my kids are going to really react well to this, or they're going to get something out of this, they're going to engage with this. And then in practice, seeing what they actually react to and what they actually engage with. What's the feedback you're hearing on this?
It helps a lot that the young people are their own age. They want to hear what kids their own age are saying, and they want to hear it in their own language, the way they talk. So that has helped a lot. But their reaction has been positive, I think, for two reasons. Number one, because it is, Generation Z talking to Generation Z. Number two, because it uses the communication mechanisms that they're using. So these kids are debating online. They're debating over an online portal. They don't see each other face to face. They're using technology to talk to each other. There's animation that's intertwined with it that they make use of. And so that's kind of fun. I think another reason why we get positive responses, though, is because the arguments that these kids are making are arguments that you typically don't hear. Arguments based in logic, where they investigate each other. And they kind of like that. And they like the fact that we don't just give lip service to the pro-choice side. The pro-choicer really is thinking, what is the best argument? What are they saying? What are most of them arguing? And then the pro-life side has to counter that. So that helps a lot. It's not just presenting the pro-life side, it's showing both sides. And then you get to decide for yourself which side you think is stronger.
Inevitably, when we have something like this, the kids are going to have questions at some point, and I'm hoping that my kids would always feel comfortable coming to me or to my wife and saying, "Mom, Dad, we didn't understand this. We think we understand this. We have some follow-up questions." And I know a lot of us, we choose to say, "Listen, if you're going to be online, we're going to moderate your online video watching in this case." And we might be there to hear what's being presented, hear what's being argued, and certainly check it out in advance. But what resources are there for parents, whether it's we're watching the videos with our kids or we're having them watch them so they can be comfortable and then come to us with questions? And we might be saying, all right, those are good questions, but I'm not quite sure how to fully answer that.
Yeah. Well, I think for parents who want to be there for their kids and want to be able to provide the answers, the first thing you need to do is educate yourself. So Respect Life University has all the tools that you would need to do that. You can watch these videos, Forbidden Discussions. We have another series called Super Shorts, where it's pro-life short animated features on different issues. There's another series called Pathfinders that deals with all the hard issues. What about rape and incest? What about life of the mother? What about destructive stem cell research? What about children with disabilities? Those are the questions that become very difficult to answer. So once you have the philosophy down, that's one thing, to be able to explain what is true happiness and what is true freedom and what is real quality of life. But then when somebody comes to you and says, okay, but what about a child who's going to be born into the world with a severe and profound disability and be suffering for his whole life? Wouldn't it be better off if he had never been born? You would need to be able to confidently answer those kinds of questions. And so these tools that we've provided online are short. Some of them are 3 minutes long. Some are 90 seconds. Some are 5 minutes, 9 minutes, that help you understand clearly how to articulate the answers to those kinds of questions. And then you can sit down. We have a whole series of videos for kindergarten, like I said, all the way through college. We've got Philo and Sophie, which is a program for little kids as young as kindergarten. We've got, the Super Shorts animated, which are for high school kids. And then we've got Forbidden Discussions for the college kids, high school and college, upper high school and college kids. So I'd say for a parent who really wants to answer, first get educated yourself and then use the tools we have. We've made it really easy. You don't have to go through a curriculum and buy pieces. It's all free. It's all online. You're just watching this with your kid and then talking with them afterwards. Ask them, what kind of questions do you have about this?
I remember the first time we were driving, and we have some wonderful pro-life billboards here in the St. Louis area where we call home. But my oldest daughter looked out the window, and she was able to read, and she said, "Daddy, what's that word? What's abortion? What does that mean?" And, I knew it was one of those conversations we were going to have at some point. But I wasn't, it's not that I wasn't ready for it. I just wish she had maybe been a little bit older. But I think as parents, it's a great reminder for us that we have that responsibility. If we don't have these conversations, someone else is going to have them. And our children, are they going to be prepared for that? And that's what I love about this series is it can help prepare them with good sound logic, good sound science, good sound argument, so that if they are in these conversations, and we're not always going to be there as parents, we can know that they're prepared for them. And I think that's a wonderful thing. Camille, this is great. And I look forward to hearing more from Respect Life University and Healing the Culture. And, I kind of wonder, now that you've got this put together, what's going to be the next thing for Healing the Culture?
We don't have a curriculum right now for 4th, 5th, and 6th graders. So we are in the very beginning stages. We're creating a series called Jessica's Jam. It's going to intertwine, it's going to combine live actors with animated characters where they actually interrelate and talk to each other in a kind of a fantasy world. And it's going to deal with some really tough issues, but we're going to do it in a way that doesn't destroy the innocence of kids who are still maybe a little bit too young to hear and talk about abortion. There are ways you can bring up abortion and talk about abortion without destroying their innocence and protecting that innocence, while at the same time hitting the arguments that the pro-choicers are going to be making and they're going to be hearing later on. So be on the lookout for that. We will be launching that at the end of this year. It's called Jessica's Jam. And I'm really excited about it. We built our own film studio here in Rapid City, and we've got a great crew assembled, and it's going to be a phenomenal production.
It sounds great, Camille. Well, for our radio listeners who won't get the visual cues, our listeners watching us right now on the video format can you tell us the website again for Healing the Culture and for Respect Life University?
Sure, healingtheculture.org. That's really the only one they need to remember is healingtheculture.org. And if you go there under the menu, there's Respect Life University right there. You just click on it, and it'll take you to all the different shows and programs that we have, and they're all free.
Wonderful, wonderful. Camille, thank you so much for spending some time with us here on Roadmap to Heaven today. We are going to take a break, but we will be back after this.